we're going to look at adding and subtracting polynomials. So the first thing that we need to understand about adding and subtracting polynomials is like terms. So when we're dealing with like terms, we need to think back to the previous podcast on our manipulatives and what they mean. So let's look at each polynomial at a time. Here is one polynomial. It has 1, 2, 3 terms. And that's being added to our second polynomial that also has 1, 2, 3 terms. And it's not uncommon to get confused with all these x's and want to combine them because they're an x. But we can't. Because remember, if we go back to PEMDAS, our order of operations, PEMDAS tells us that we have to do what's inside the parentheses first, and we have to do exponents, multiply or divide, whichever comes first, left to right, add, subtract, whichever comes first, left to right. Okay. So the other thing that I want to mention to you about has to do with parentheses. In math, parentheses can mean different things. It can mean group things together. It can mean multiplication. In this case, we're just grouping together our polynomials so we can distinguish one polynomial from the other. So what I want to do first is I just want to look at what this 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5 looks like with blocks. So I'm going to cover this up because we're not looking at that right now. And I'm going to move this down. So actually what I should probably do, let me do this, because you need to see the plus and the minus. So we're going to, there's my equation right there. So that's what we're looking at. But right now I just want to look at the polynomial on the left. So I have 2x cubed. So remember that this was 1x cubed. So if I have 2, that's 2 times my x cubed. Now if we look at our mat down here, I have a positive side and a negative side. Because 2x cubed is positive, I'm going to put these over here in my positive arena. Okay. Now I have negative 4x squared. Well, if we recall, this is an x squared. And how many of those do I have? Well, I have negative 4 of them. So here are 4x squared, but if I put them down in this part of the mat, I'm saying that they're negative. So that's negative 4x squared. And then I have plus 5. So that's 3, 4, 5. So that's what 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5 looks like. And it's a little hard to see, but remember that these are up in the air. They're actual cubes, and these are not cubes. So they're different. Okay. Well, let's look at the other half of our problem. So that's a negative x squared minus a 3x plus a 1. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this first polynomial off to the side. That's negative, so I'm keeping it over here. These are all positive, so I'm going to keep those over there so I don't get lost. And we'll come back in a minute, and we'll look at combining them together. This is negative x squared. I only have 1x squared, and it's negative. This is 1x squared, and it's negative. So I put it there. Then I have negative 3x. Well, remember, this was an x, right? So how many of them do I have? I have 3. And those live over here in the negative box. And then I have 1 unit. Okay. So that's what that polynomial would look like. Now we get to combine the two. So we're going to remember our equation. I'm just going to fold this paper back like this. Keep it up there at the top. So remember that this was our second equation. Negative x squared minus 3x plus 1. And our first equation was 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5. So we're going to add them all together. Our negatives are going to stay on the negative side, and our positives are going to stay on the positive side. We want to see if we have the same thing over here as we have over here. Because if we do, they zero out. Well, I don't. So everything's just going to simply stay where it is. So how many cubes do I have? I have 2x cubed. Let me write it like this. I have 2x cubes, and they're on the positive side. What else do I have? Well, I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I also have 6, and those are just my units. So that's on that side. Let's look on this side. This is my negative side. So everything I have on this side, I have to make sure I put a negative in front. Let's look at these. These are x's. I have 1, 2, 3 x's, and they're all negative. So that's negative 3x. These are all x squared, and they're all negative because they're on the negative side of the mat. So I have negative 5x squared. So that's my answer to my problem. However, I have to do a couple things before I can say that, declare this my answer. I'm going to move the manipulatives aside. I have to put this in standard form. And standard form tells me that I have to put the highest degree exponent first, and then the next highest, and then the next highest, and then the last. So I commonly refer to this as 3, 2, 1 order. So let's look. That doesn't necessarily mean I could have an exponent of 4, that's my highest degree, or an exponent of 6. This is just my way of thinking that they count down. So 2x cubed, well, that's my highest exponent. Remember, this exponent here, that's one of those exponents that's understood to be there, 1. And then that's x squared. And what's tricky right here is there actually is an x. It's an x to the 0. It's not written, but it's there. So remember that x to the 0, anything to the 0 power is equal to 1. So that means that x to the 0 times 6 is the same as 6 times 1, which equals 6. And that's why we don't write an x there. X is 0. It's not needed. So if I do 3, 2, 1 order, that would make this 2x cubed minus 5x squared. Remember, the sign goes with the integer, minus 3x plus 6. 3, 2, 1 order. So that's how my answer would look. Okay. So let's do this without manipulatives. Same sort of thing. So if I'm looking at this problem and I have 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5, and I'm adding it to negative x squared minus 3x plus 1, just an addition problem, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to add one on top of the other. I'm going to align my like terms. Okay, so I'm going to put my negative x squared here. Remember, I'm adding all these. Negative x squared there. Ooh, I kind of messed up a little bit because my next term is negative 3x. So I need to make some room for that. This is why we do math with a pencil. So I'm going to erase that plus 5, and I'm just going to move it over there. So my negative 3x goes here, plus 1. Now notice, my like terms are all lined up nicely. So this becomes 2x cubed, negative 4x squared minus x squared. Remember, what's the coefficient of x squared? It's understood. In this case, it's negative 1. So we have negative 4x squared and negative 1x squared, and that gives us negative 5x squared. Right? We saw that when we had, remember, x squareds. If I have 4 of these, they're all negative, and I add another negative 1, I have 5 altogether. Okay. Now there's nothing here, right? I don't have any just simply x terms, so I'm just going to write that down because that didn't get added to anything. And then I have 5 plus 1, which is 6. So notice I got the same answer with the manipulatives and with writing it out the long way.